All right. So I am trying to kind of get in here and get some details started so you can see some of that before the day is done. I may not finish this all today. I will finish it by the final class next week, but I think I want to try to get in here, get some tighter details, show you kind of where do I go from the big wash. Now I'm starting to get a little more detail, so I've got a smaller brush. I'm trying to do little shapes. I'm drawing. I'm back to kind of like drawing with this smaller brush. And I will go in and maybe mess with those edges a little bit later. But right now I'm trying to kind of show those big shapes. And I may really push in some color like we did with our color comps later. The color comps are there to give you some ideas, to show you how far you can push your color, to give you an idea about some solutions to color as you get started. It's not necessarily, okay, this is my color comp, I better paint the rest of this to look like that color comp. That is not what we were out to do. So now I'm kind of putting some hair strokes. I'm kind of like combining them together, and I'll do some of these. Maybe I'll get a little darker version of this, kind of like a darker, cooler brown. You know, find some spots, and I'm gonna pull a couple strokes here and kind of have them kind of close to each other. Then I'll go in another area. I'm trying to kind of group them in together. Patches of hair. Group patches. Don't want this to be too dry when I'm doing it. And what I'll probably end up doing is at the end I'll do another one of this same kind of pass, but instead with a dark, I'm going to pick some light, some highlight. Get a little bit darker in some of those spots. Get a little mustache there. You know, underneath the corner of that mouth, you might get some extra strokes. Get some red oxide in there. Get some of that brighter color back in. And some of this, I think, is, to me, it almost looks like it's almost final detail. You know, I may have some color passes or some light and shadow passes where I might try to change the overall tone a little bit. But as far as the detail and the texture, some of this might be getting pretty close to done. He's going to be our hero, I think. I went back and forth with the idea of whether this other enemy in the background should be Aku, but in the end I decided that that's maybe a little too silly, so I'm going to paint it just as I think I would normally paint it. But what I'll do is maybe do a digital second version where I do the Aku version, because something about that also makes me kind of laugh, and I like the idea of it. This is a pretty tiny brush. This is a number 3 script by Simons. It's whatchamacallit. I don't think it's a natural hair brush. I think it's a synthetic. But as I start to kind of get this texture, get this detail up here, all of a sudden, I don't even really have to mess with some of this stuff up here on the face. Like the highlights, some of those areas are starting to kind of, I would almost say, pop out to where I wanted them originally. And I didn't even really have to do much. All I had to do was add the detail to the other areas. This side of the nose has like there's a fold between your nose and the side of the cheek. So get a little bit of that in there. I don't love what just happened there, but we can always fix some of that later. Just want a little stain of it. Usually I'd get pretty close to this, then maybe add some really strong color somewhere, and then the last step I would pop little teeny highlights into the eyes, and as soon as you did that, they kind of almost come to life. They just seem to work a little bit better once you get that stage in there. I just pull that back just a little bit with my finger dab blender. Some darker values back in there. Face is pretty much coming together. So far, I'm pretty happy with what's going on. Might grab a little more black. Starting to get a little light, and I want it darker so it goes back towards this bun, pulled back hair in the back. The man bun, the samurai bun. So I'm kind of thinking, where is it darkest? Now I'm kind of pulling my lights and strokes out from that spot. I've got some little stray random hairs coming off some of the edges. Try and make it look more kind of flowy, dramatic, unkept, battle worn. I can go over it again and again and again in places where maybe the ear hole over here next to the tragus needs to get darker, or maybe the little hole in the helix needs to get, or anti-helix needs to get darker up there. Oh, put my hand in the paint, and I don't have a paper towel. Do a little stroke anyway. All right, jumping over to the hands now. Try and kind of finish, I think, what I'm going to do just for this demo for today. Trying to just get a little bit of this detail, soften some things up. Just trying to find the, how are these fingers divided? What is facing the light? Where's the knuckle? Where's the highlight? Most of this back edge is in the shadow here. Not trying to show too much detail there. I think I want more of a graphic silhouette, so those hands just really look strong. They look like they're standing out. I'm gonna finish this when I get my reference picture and I can look at it and I don't have to guess. A lot of this I'm doing a little bit of painting and then a little bit of smudging. I'll do more, get some warm. I'm gonna add some extra orange into some of this. Make it a little extra warm on some edges. Maybe help it kind of fade and kind of feel unified as skin with the warmth. I'll maybe catch some edges from that sunlight coming in on the edge at the end, but more oranges and reds in the hands, maybe a little bit of purple on some cool spots. But overall, this is pretty much coming together. I could make a little bit of a highlight spot here. Let's get some white. A little orange, a little raw sienna. And start to maybe bring some of those top edges. A lot of this is a little bit thin, so I don't plan on this being like something that blocks out everything and covers everything, but it might bring up the light a little bit better. Get a couple spots here. The skin, when your wrist is bent like that, can kind of puff up against those creases where the two sides of the wrist meet. So sometimes it's nice to kind of show that a little bit. Let some of those edges of skin kind of show off a little bit. Figure little bits of this out here. Building this up and it's all kind of semi opaque, so as you build up semi opaque paint you start to get some brighter moments. Get a little bit on this forearm here. I can kind of pop that muscle out. A little bit of this guy here. See if we can do that same thing, really. Very subtle. A lot of this is going to dry and disappear, but little pieces that kind of remind you and kind of keep bringing that forearm muscles out. There you go. Well, hopefully this helps. I'll put some other parts of this back on line between now and next week. Mostly my plan is, start to build up the detail on this, start to get some shadows into this that kind of like take it from like a neutral color to something a little bit darker with a little more definition. And then I'll probably do some glazing at the end to really kind of pop the light up here in the face and up here on the hands and the forearm, the upper forearm near the wrist. Everything else, I think I want it to kind of like push back, fade back. But hopefully you're well on your way and you have some ideas. Thanks.